Iggy, the GDP headline this week looked genuinely good. 5.7% growth, beating what economists expected. Why do I have a feeling you're about to complicate that for me?
Because it is genuinely good news, and I want to say that plainly before anything else. Second quarter growth came in at 5.7% year on year, ahead of the 5.5% economists expected, even though it eased from 6.3% in the first quarter. Several banks raised their full year forecasts on the back of it. Maybank moved to 4.8%, Bank of America to 4.5%, both comfortably above the official government range of 2 to 4%. The Trade Ministry itself is expected to formally lift that range to somewhere around 4 to 5% when final numbers land in August.
That sounds like an unambiguously good story so far.
It mostly is. And the engine behind it is worth naming specifically because it connects directly to something we've been watching all week. Manufacturing grew 12.2% year on year, accelerating sharply from 8% in the first quarter, almost entirely on the back of AI-related demand for semiconductors and precision equipment.
Okay, so where's the complication?
Two threads, actually, both worth unpacking properly. First, something genuinely reassuring that connects to this week's bigger story. Bank lending grew 10.5% year on year in May. That matters because it means the extraordinary run we've seen in DBS, OCBC, and UOB this week isn't purely a valuation story or price momentum. There's real loan growth underneath it. Second, a smaller caution flag sitting right next to the good manufacturing number. Construction actually contracted on a sequential basis for the first time since early last year. Higher energy, logistics, and building material costs are squeezing that sector even as manufacturing races ahead.
So one part of the economy pulling ahead while another quietly struggles.
Precisely. And that unevenness is exactly the kind of thing a single headline growth number hides. Now, the part I really want to spend time on today is what this all means for interest rates, because that's where it gets genuinely relevant to how you and I think about CPF and safe yield. Bank of America has been calling the upcoming MAS policy meeting, due by the end of this month, increasingly live for a tightening move. That's their house view specifically. But MAS runs its own survey of professional forecasters every quarter. And the most recent one shows something different. Only about 38% of surveyed economists expect a tightening in July. The clear majority still expect a hold, with October being the more likely window if a move comes at all.
So it's one bank against the broader room, basically.
That's a fair way to put it. And here's why it matters practically. If MAS does tighten, funding costs firm up further, and the risk-free curve we compare everything against shifts slightly. If MAS holds, as most forecasters expect, things stay roughly where they are. Right now, the compounded interest rate benchmark that underlies most floating mortgages and much of the funding market has firmed modestly off its lows, sitting around 1.1 to 1.2% across different tenors. Treasury bill yields have also been essentially flat over the past several weeks, sitting close to 1.5%.
How does that compare to the numbers you always anchor everything against?
Still well below my 3.2% forensic floor and well below the CPF special account rate too. Speaking of which, here's the genuinely reassuring detail I want to make sure lands clearly today. The special account's 4% floor rate has been extended and locked in through the end of this year, regardless of what happens at this month's MAS meeting or any near-term rate wobble. For anyone using that 4% as their retirement anchor, that part of the picture isn't moving no matter which way this specific policy decision goes.
Okay, that's reassuring. So what's the risk you keep hinting at?
This is the part I think genuinely isn't being priced into most people's read on this good news story. Singapore's entire growth upgrade is riding on the same engine, AI-driven semiconductor and electronics demand. And that engine has shown real cracks recently, just not here, in South Korea specifically. The KOSPI index hit an all-time high on June 19th, then lost close to 27% of its value by mid-July, including single sessions where it fell nearly 9 to 10% in a day. The trigger was largely SK Hynix, whose stock rallied hard into its Nasdaq debut and then sold off sharply once the listing actually happened, dragging the broader Korean tech complex with it.
That sounds like a completely different market though. Why does that matter here?
Because Singapore's own growth story right now is built on the exact same foundation: global AI, capital expenditure, and semiconductor demand. One of the research houses covering this, RHB, said it plainly themselves. A potential correction in AI-related markets could pose real downside risk to an economy as export-oriented as ours. We are not seeing that stress show up in our own manufacturing numbers yet. This quarter was genuinely strong. But the KOSPI move is a live example of exactly how fast sentiment can turn on the very engine we are currently celebrating.
So this isn't you saying the good GDP number is fake, it's you saying watch what's holding it up.
Exactly that. Good data today doesn't tell you what happens if global AI spending cools even modestly. That's not a prediction. I want to be clear. I'm not telling you Singapore is about to follow Korea into a correction. It's a stress test question, the kind I'd ask of any single stock with one dominant growth driver, just applied to the whole economy this time.
This was a lot more layered than the economy grew, hooray.
Most good economic headlines are, if you're willing to look one layer under them.
Before we wrap, remind everyone where they get the deeper version of everything we cover.
0-day access on Substack and YouTube, full Red Zone watch list, and institutional grade cheat sheets for its $9 per month.
Thanks for making a GDP report actually interesting. See you next time.
This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. Nothing in this episode constitutes financial advice, investment recommendations, or an offer to buy or sell any security. All analysis reflects IGGY'S forensic compliance standards. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Please consult a licensed financial advisor before making any investment decisions.